We all know that Tokyo is one of the most expensive cities in the world, but did you know that its average apartment size has been getting smaller and smaller? So, what does that mean for those living in Tokyo? Well, it means that they have to make some tough decisions in order to afford the rent. But when we're talking about real estate in Japan, there are many hidden costs involved, especially when it comes to renting an apartment. So, if you ever plan to move to Tokyo or any major city in Japan, be sure to watch this video so that you don't get surprised by these hidden costs. I'm going to break down 6 hidden costs of Tokyo's tiny apartments. Let's go. Part 1. The rent trap. So, first off, let's talk about the rent itself. You see, in Japan, the rule of thumb is that you should be spending no more than 30% of your income on housing. However, in Tokyo, that number jumps up to 40%, and here's why. According to recent surveys, the average person in Tokyo spends about $1,300 to $700 per month on rent, which is nearly 3 times the national average. That works out to around 73% of their monthly income, and that's just for a studio apartment. If you want something bigger, like a 1-bedroom apartment, expect to pay closer to $18,000 per month. That works out to roughly 97% of the average salary in Tokyo. So basically, if you want to live in Tokyo and you're not making at least $25,000 a month, then you need to find a roommate. On top of that, even though Japan has a law against discrimination in housing, landlords often charge higher prices for foreigners, women, and families with children. This is because they think that these people are more likely to cause trouble or damage to the property. This is a huge problem in Japan, and it's one of the reasons why many young people can't afford to buy their own home. But don't worry, I made a whole video about this, so check it out after this one. Part 2. Key money. Alright, now that we got the rent out of the way, let's talk about the other hidden costs involved when renting an apartment in Tokyo. First up, we have key money. In Japan, it's common practice for landlords to require tenants to pay a fee called ryaku-kin, or key money. This is essentially a deposit that is used to cover any damages that may occur to the apartment during the tenancy. The amount of key money that is required varies depending on the landlord and the property, but it is typically equal to 1 month's rent. Now, in most cases, this key money is fully refundable at the end of the tenancy, provided that the apartment is returned in good condition. However, some landlords may charge tenants for damages beyond normal wear and tear. For example, if the tenant has caused significant damage to the property or left it in an unreasonably dirty state, the landlord may deduct these costs from the key money. In addition, some landlords may also require tenants to pay a separate security deposit in order to cover any unpaid rent or other charges. It's important to note that this is different from the typical security deposit that is commonly required in the United States. In that case, if you haven't paid your rent or damaged the property, they will take it from your security deposit. Here in Japan, the security deposit is only used if you don't pay your rent, and it's usually 1 month's worth of rent, whereas the key money is just like a cleaning deposit. They use it to clean the apartment when you leave. So, it's better to think of key money as a sort of security that the landlord has to hold on to until the end of the tenancy to make sure everything is okay. And as I mentioned earlier, it's usually equal to 1 month's rent. However, in Tokyo, it can be much higher, especially in popular areas. In fact, some landlords are now requiring tenants to pay as much as 2 to 3 months' rent as key money. So, if you're planning to move to Tokyo soon, make sure you have enough money saved up to cover these costs. Otherwise, you may have trouble finding a place to live. Part 3. Utilities and hidden bills. Utilities are another major hidden cost that many people don't think about when moving to Tokyo. When you're looking at apartments online, most of them will list the price without utilities, which can be quite confusing. So here's how it works. Gas, water, and garbage collection are typically included in the rent. However, electricity and internet are not. And if you want to use a washing machine or dryer, you need to pay extra for that as well. These utility bills can add up quickly, especially if you're not careful. So make sure to ask your landlord or real estate agent about the average cost of utilities before you sign your lease. To save money on utilities, you can always look for ways to reduce your usage. Make sure to turn off the lights when you leave a room, unplug electronics when you're not using them, and use energy-efficient appliances. You can also ask your utility providers about discounts or plans that can help you save money. By following these tips, you can help reduce your overall utility bills and save money while living in Tokyo. Part 4. Furniture and appliances. When looking for an apartment in Tokyo, you'll notice that there are two types of rooms listed: furnished and unfurnished. Furnished apartments typically come with basic furniture such as a bed, table, and chairs, as well as appliances like a fridge, washing machine, and television. Unfurnished apartments, on the other hand, do not come with any furniture or appliances. If you choose to rent an unfurnished apartment, you'll need to purchase all of your own furniture and appliances, which can be expensive. Additionally, if you choose to rent a furnished apartment, you may still need to purchase additional furniture or appliances to meet your needs. While furnished apartments are more expensive, they can be a good value in the long run, as you won't have to worry about the upfront costs of purchasing furniture and appliances. However, you should still carefully consider your budget and needs when deciding whether to rent a furnished or unfurnished apartment. Ultimately, the decision is yours, and there is no right or wrong answer. Just be sure to do your research and choose what's best for you. Part 5. Space equals lifestyle costs. In Tokyo, many people believe that the amount of space you have in your apartment is directly related to your social status. Those who live in larger apartments are seen as being more successful or higher on the social rungs, while those who live in smaller apartments are seen as being less successful. This belief can lead to a lot of pressure for people to rent or buy the biggest apartment they can afford, even if it's not really necessary for their lifestyle. However, this can be a financial mistake. Instead of spending all of their money on rent, people should consider their lifestyle and needs when choosing an apartment. A smaller apartment may be more affordable and free up their money for other expenses, such as eating out, traveling, or investing. People shouldn't feel pressured to live in a certain sized apartment just for the sake of appearances. Instead, they should choose an apartment that fits their needs and budget. Living in a smaller apartment doesn't mean that you're any less successful than someone who lives in a bigger apartment. Part 6. Moving out costs. When renting an apartment in Tokyo, you may be surprised at the number of fees that are associated with moving out. Typically, when you move into an apartment, you'll have to pay a few different fees. There's the initial deposit, which is used to cover any damages that you may cause to the apartment during your tenancy. As we talked about earlier, there's the key money, which is a separate deposit that's used to cover the cost of cleaning the apartment when you move out. And finally, there's the trash disposal fee. If you have any large items that need to be disposed of, such as a refrigerator or air conditioner, you'll need to pay a fee for this as well. So when you're budgeting for your move to Tokyo, make sure to factor in these potential costs. It's always better to be prepared in advance so that you're not caught off guard when it's time to move out. Conclusion. Now that you know the 6 hidden costs of Tokyo's tiny apartments, hopefully you're a little bit more prepared for your move to Tokyo. Keep in mind that these costs can vary depending on your individual situation. For example, if you're a foreigner, you may have to pay a higher rent. If you're a family, you may have to pay more for utilities. And if you're moving to a popular area, you may have to pay more for key money. That being said, the general costs that we've outlined in this video should give you a good idea of what to expect when renting an apartment in Tokyo. If you're able to budget for these costs in advance, then you'll be able to avoid any surprises when it's time to move. Thanks for watching.